myself Abhishek Kumar. I am software engineer at ShapeBlue. I will go through how we can customize CloudStack UI. With the new UI, there have been changes in the code and how we change few things. So let's go through it. So this will be agenda of my talk. I will briefly discuss CloudStack UI, new changes that have been there in new UI, and UI customization, why it's needed, what we support. Then we will go through basic UI customization, which will be through the help of a configuration file. Uh, some examples there, how we can customize theme, contextual help links, support plugins in the UI. I will try to show a short demo. Then we will move on to advanced UI customization that will deal with some source code changes, how we can tweak few things in the source code and make UI work the way we want. There will be few examples how we can change some of the icons, add localization, and maybe perform some of the more advanced modifications. I will try to show a demo for that as well, but I'm not sure if that will go through, so we'll see about that. So CloudStack UI, ever since from its early days, CloudStack have been supporting functional roles-based UI, where domain admins, and then normal user accounts get a different interface for performing different actions. It is functional in a sense that it supports all of the almost over 600 APIs now in master branch of CloudStack code. So it supports almost all of them, apart from some few things that probably can be done only through APIs, such as one of thing that I can think of is importing VMs in VMware, and few more things. So recently with 4.15.0 release, we moved to a new modern UI, which is based on Vue.js and design framework. It supports almost all of the features that old legacy UI used to support, but then provides a nicer, cleaner interface with probably much better functionality, something like contextual history, which supports going backward and forward while browsing, and plenty of more things. As I mentioned, old UI was deprecated in 4.15.0, and new UI was introduced. It was a separate package till then. With the 4.15.1, we can install CloudStack UI package, which will be released by the community. And moving forward to 4.16.0, this will be the only UI that CloudStack will support. So I will encourage everyone to test the new UI, and probably if you find some issues, raise them on GitHub, so community can fix them. Again, going through new UI, it is modern, intuitive. It was needed because legacy UI has been going on for many years, and it has become dated. Most of the new functionalities that developers have been trying to add, it was becoming more and more difficult, with probably having few a couple of not couple of, but bunch of big JavaScript files, which probably had some of them which had around 20,000 lines of code. So it was difficult to maintain and difficult to add new features because it was using jQuery based interface and library. So yeah, a new interface was needed, and it was added in 4.15.0. It matches all the functionality that old UI used to offer, and as I mentioned, it is based on Vue.js and design, and packaging and building part is based on Node.js. It supports API auto discovery, similar to the command line client that CloudMonkey we have. Uh, Pretty straightforward in terms of discovering new functionality that is will be added to CloudStack. So for developers, it becomes easier to add new views when a new UI is been added, which probably adds some newer elements. It is responsive in terms of sizing. It supports all of the form factors and displays the interface accordingly. As you can see in the screenshot here, it shows how same functionalities and interface are shown on different platforms such as mobile and desktop accordingly. So moving on to customization. Customization of UI is needed because it is important for cloud operators to brand their interfaces accordingly, make changes to themes, different brandings, images. Also, everyone has different use case, so it becomes important that they are able to perform some sort of customization uh, uh, on the UI, because it is the one thing probably all of their users will be using in some form or the another. Uh, Going ahead, I would like to mention uh, things that we discuss here in this talk are also being documented on the in one of the blogs on ShapeBlue website. So if you want to read more, you can go through that blog. Moving on, basic customization. It is for everyone. Like you just need some understanding of writing or editing JSON file, and some sort of cloud operation experience. So you can go to that particular JSON file, which is located in generally in etc slash cloudstack management config.json. You will be provided with a JSON file which has keys for different parameters such as uh, title, footer, logo, banner, etc. There are also a bunch of properties for colors and height, width, which would allow customizing theme for the interface. So, moving ahead, we will go through theme customizations. We can customize different things like colors, images, headers, text that is shown in the interface with the help of configuration file. We just need to edit them, and upon refreshing, it should reflect accordingly. Uh, then uh, Going through colors, they are simple CSS type hexadecimal uh, uh, descriptor, so you can change colors in either as hex strings or RGB values. With the new UI, we added support for showing contextual documentation link. So every time user opens uh, any view, either instances, templates, ISOs, etc., there will be a help sign shown somewhere, generally at the top of the heading, which would allow user to be redirected to a documentation page. Mm, by default, this documentation is mapped to official CloudStack documentation, that is doc.cloudstack.apache.org. So whenever user clicks help link on instances page, he will be redirected to instances uh, page on the CloudStack documentation website. This particular behavior can be customized as well. So if someone is hosting their own uh, help website or documentation website, they can simply change two of the properties from the configuration file, that are doc base and doc help mappings. Doc base is the scheme or the prefix part that will be added to all of the documentation link and the main website. So if, like in the example shown here, if I am hosting my documentation as my at my custom website, so I will change the doc base accordingly. Now comes the second parameter, that is doc help mapping. These are the suffixes that are added to main website link, that is doc base, when the user will be redirected. So in the doc help mappings property, I can add a list of mappings which would replace the existing suffixes which are currently added in the source code to my custom suffixes. So each time when user clicks it, user will be redirected to a replaced URL. So a list of all the existing suffixes that are possible and are there in code is available on the documentation website. And also when we fresh install 4.15.1 packages, which will be released probably sometime soon, those mappings will be available in the configuration file, so it will make easier for people who are choosing to remap these suffixes, so they would know which suffixes they need to remap. Moving on, UI, as it was the case with legacy UI, also supports plugins. So operators can add their custom HTML pages or uh, uh, their custom services uh, as a tab on the UI navigation, and they will be shown in an iframe in the main content of the interface. So if I want to show some custom static HTML page, I can store it in the web apps directory of the CloudStack management package, and uh, add a plugin JSON in the configuration file. It would require three things: name, icon, and path. Icon here can be uh, an icon from predefined icons of and design, or it can be a custom icon which we can have which we can have stored in assets folder in the same web app directory. For the path, it can be directly the HTML files path, or our custom web service that can be showing some HTTP service to the users. This is similar to old UI. So in terms of functionality, it supports probably everything that is there. So let me now try to go ahead and show a demo. Can anyone please confirm if my screen is visible?
Yeah, we're able to see that.
Come on.
We can see it, Abhishek.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. So I'm already connected to my running environment, which is here. So if I try to make some changes in the configuration file and then refresh my browser, it should reflect the same. So let's try to change few things. I'm changing it to up already added files, so it shows up there, and I don't have to copy another. I will go ahead and change the text color.
Abhishek, could you make your font a little bit bigger?
Okay. Is it better? No.
Yeah,
I
that's
think we
visible.
can see it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
visible for me. On the chat,
Sorry about that. Yeah.
the text, then just put it on the chat.
I will save the file now. Uh, so if I now refresh, so as you can see, some of the colors have been changed. Logo, although I have not been using correct dimensions, so it is showing a bit stressed, but with proper images and correct color values, UI can be customized as per liking. Similarly, if I can go ahead and again open configuration file, I have my custom one of the custom uh, documentation here, which is hosted on the same server with couple of pages. So if I want my instances page, like if I go to compute, then instances page, here is the contextual documentation. Right now, if I open it, it will go to default documentation. But if I want to customize this, I can maybe go ahead and change the configuration. So if I go back to configuration file, on the second line here, it is mentioned doc base. I can change it to my server IP address. Then I can add a mapping here saying the suffix part. Once saved, it should now reflect in the UI. So with few changes, I have made UI redirect users to a custom documentation. So this is how doc remapping can work. Going ahead, these are the this was the demo for basic UI customization. Similarly, you can add uh, uh, configuration for plugins, and it should show accordingly. If, let me move on. Now we come to advanced UI customization. If someone having prior experience operating CloudStack, they must be knowing with the legacy UI, we were able to make changes on the fly in the server itself. That also needed some sort of JavaScript knowledge because there were huge JavaScript files that were placed in web app directory on the management server host. So with the new UI, similar thing is possible, but the only difference is here you need to uh, build build those source code files and the resultant UI will be shown. So it needs some sort of basic programming language knowledge. It will require changing source code files. It may look a bit difficult and uh, challenging, but if some sort of guidelines are followed, it is not that difficult. Uh, there are only three things that operator or whoever making change needs to worry about. Some sort of JavaScript knowledge, some sort of UJS and Node.js understanding. Uh, in terms of code, UI related source code is placed in UI subdirectory of the CloudStack's complete source code. So that can be downloaded from either from CloudStack's official website as an archive form, or Git repository can be used to clone uh, desired tag or branch. Documentation on UI development is also available on inside the source itself. So if someone wants to go through how UI source code is structured, they can follow this particular development MD file from the GitHub or from the source code itself. Uh, Moving on, how advanced UI customization works. So firstly, you need to get CloudStack source code from either from CloudStack website This will be possible only for CloudStack version 4.15.1 because prior to that, new UI was not present in the CloudStack's code itself and was a separate project. Or you can clone the code from Git repository. So once that is done, you need to set up your environment. Apart from installing bunch of things like your desired IDE editor, you need to install some packages for uh, Node.js and npm. The commands shown here are for Ubuntu, and they have been tested there. So if you want to try on different other operating systems, there is documentation on uh, CloudStack's GitHub repository, which would allow you installing Node.js and required dependency on other platforms as well. I'm on Windows right now, and in terms of Windows, I was needed just Node.js installer from their website, and I was ready to make changes. Then, once my changes, once I know what changes I need in the code, I make them, and then I need to uh, build packages. Uh, the binaries can be built with just two simple commands with npm install and npm run build. Uh, this will create a folder called dist in the same directory, which would contain all the built binaries. Once these binaries are built, I can simply copy them on the CloudStack management server host in the web app directory. Here, example shows how I can SCP them on the management server host. Once that is done, I can simply access my management server with the same IP address, and my changes should reflect there. Now, in terms of advanced changes, there can be anything that an operator decides to change, because source code is there, and uh, whatever changes he likes, it can be made. I will go through some simpler examples how we can change icon images in the uh, interface, and then add new language or localization support there. And also some of the more advanced modification that can be done in the UI. So icon are present and at different places in the UI. Like if I can go back to my interface, uh, I get this sort of left navigation, which shows me all the main different sections that UI offers. So as in the code also, these menu options are structured as section. So there are different JavaScript files for each section, which we might see in later in the presentation. Once we find them, we can make changes to them accordingly. Like if I go into my editor, yeah, uh, this is UI source code. So in the section directory, I get these different JavaScript files that correspond to each of the menu item that is shown in the interface. So if I would want to make some change in the compute menu here. I need to make change in corresponding compute.js file. Here, different submenus are defined and their icons are defined accordingly. So if I go to the top, I can see instances submenu is defined here. I have changed its icon, which was like it can be. Sorry for the typo here, but originally it would be something like uh, as shown here. Edit, which is from the default icons of the uh, end design. Uh, this link can be followed for different end design icons. So if I make appropriate changes as shown here, original status was compute was shown as something like cloud, and then compute instances are shown as with a monitor like icon. I can make the change and show them accordingly. I can either use predefined icons or use my custom icon, which can be placed in uh, CloudStack/UI/source assets icon directory in the source code. And then I would build my UI with npm as described earlier and copy those binaries on the management server. Similarly, I can add a new language. Uh, if I go back to my environment, it shows options for different languages here. So if I want to add a new language or maybe want to change, uh, add support for more strings in existing file, existing language, so I can do it in corresponding JSON file. All the different language JSON files are stored in inside this particular directory, CloudStack UI public locales directory that contains all the uh, language JSON file. So for adding a new language, I just need to maybe copy uh, English language file, that is en.json, make its copy, and then make changes in it for showing correct string in desired language. Uh, then to show this particular new language in the menu option, I just need to make one change in one of the view file, that is translation menu dot view. I can add this particular line as shown in second code block. I can add a new menu item with proper key would be the same what my file name is, and then whatever title I want to give. Similarly, I'll build and copy these files uh, on the management server host. They should reflect accordingly. Further, I can make more advanced changes, such as showing things like uh, new action items or buttons, or hiding or showing existing buttons uh, ac- as per my desire. So in this code block here, uh, change has been added to hide a register template button for users other than admin and domain admin role. Although a better way would have been using uh, rules based approach and making API not accessible to a particular role, but this is just for an example. In the lower bottom screenshot, as expected, the register template button is hidden. So as I was showing, different sections are structured in section subdirectory inside the source code, and different view files are placed either in components subdirectory, which contains all the reusable components, or in the view subdirectory, which contains view files for dot view files for views that we see on some action item. I would like to show demo for this, but I think I'm running out of time. But let me try, because this would take some time.
Yeah, Abhishek, I was just going to say, if you do your demo quickly, and then there's quite a lot of questions, so we can do you can do the questions offline in the chat afterwards, just so we use the time effectively. So yeah, do your demo. You've got a few minutes.
Okay, sure, Giles. I would just run npm run build, because if you can see, I already have some of the changes made in my source code, so I would directly run my build. It would take some time, so what I can try is maybe copy my existing build changes from my other system. Meanwhile, if anyone has any question, I can answer those uh, between the time it takes to build UI.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions being asked during your session, Abhishek. Let me just pick a couple out because we're nearly out of time. So somebody said they couldn't find the config.json in etc cloud stack management. You know any reason they might not find that?
Uh, these uh, the path that I mentioned is for 4.15.1. So I would say, if you are using correct version, for older releases, it could be in etc slash CloudStack management or user slash share CloudStack web apps directory. So maybe that could be the reason, or it depends, like what version of CloudStack you are using.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll just pick one more. Again, apologies to people whose question hasn't been answered here. I'll ask Abhishek. Hopefully, we'll get around to answering those on chat. Just a question about plugins and the UI plugins. Obviously, with the existing ones, you can use an iframe to present HTML. But the question is it possible to have your own custom Vue.js pages and components that can use the API?
No, I afraid that might fall into advanced customization, because view files need to be compiled, and for that to work, I think user will have to probably add those changes in the source code and then build as mentioned in the advanced customization part.
By definition, then it wouldn't be a plugin, right? It would just be advanced
Yeah,
customization.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.